Hey, welcome everyone. Today we want to talk a little bit about our Mars Online website. For those that aren't familiar with it, this is where you want to go when you want to learn a lot about the JKD or the Filipino arts. And it's been up for quite a few years, but we just did a whole new renovation, has a new look to it. It's got a lot of new material, but there's a lot of questions. You know, I'm a beginner and how do I access this? How do I find that? Larry, you want to take that and kind of educate people who, you know, maybe they're doing other systems and they want to come in and learn some of the Filipino arts, or, you know, they want to go through and get certified in the arts in JKD or Kali. How do they go about in actually getting to the site and becoming an active member?
That's a great question, actually. And I think sometimes we're so knee deep into these types of things that we don't realize, like, wow, what if I'd never done this before, right? What would I do? What would be the first couple of steps? And the easiest one is you go to marsonlinetraining.com and you become a bundle member. The bundle includes definitely all of our JKD curriculum and our Kali curriculum, and has a lot of other really cool perks in there too. So that would be your first step. And then once you're inside, now you start to get to pick different paths, right? I'll let Ron talk a little bit about the path. I mean, that's going to be individual for each person, but it's something that I think is pretty powerful.
So Ron, can you tell us a little bit about, like, if I'm a member and I come in and I have this JKD Kali bundle, what do I actually have access to? What do I get for that?
Well, we have the book. The first thing is you don't even have, you just have to subscribe to the site, and I'm giving away my JKD book, and it'll be downloaded. It'll be a free download for yourself. You, Cliff, convinced me to give that away, which I think is a good thing, you know, because I think it's a good introduction, or at least to give you the philosophy of what we do and what we teach. The second thing is you're going to get a bi-monthly class from myself or another Mars instructor like your guys, but I try to handle as much as I can. You know, usually the classes are either Kali or JKD classes, and we host them most often on a Wednesday or a Saturday morning, once a month. So after you get that, you're just going to get access to, if you get the bundle, you're going to have access to so much material. I can't even think of how many hours. Maybe you guys know or have a count on that, but there's a plethora of information there, just at a keystroke away.
And there's actually right now, I mean, in the future, you're working on other different certification programs, but right now they can go through the Filipino arts, that route, and the JKD, or they can actually go and get certified in both. Is that correct?
Correct. You know, and we're going to be bringing other arts into it too, because I mean, I teach other systems, but you know, starting off with you guys, we really wanted to just concentrate on getting that material out to you. The Kali itself is so in depth, and we're going to be bringing Silat in. We'll be bringing grappling in. We're going to have other systems brought in, like Silat in the future, you know, the Thai boxing.
Well, you know, I mean, I've been working on the site and uploading these videos, and it's just a lot of material. And I don't know how many years I've been training in the Filipino arts, since like about 1981. And it could be overwhelming. So if I'm a beginner, what would be the steps, Larry? Maybe you can answer this. I needed to go through, I want to get certified. Let's say I want to get certified in Kali. How would I go about that? Because, you know, you go in there, you're going to see single stick video, double sticks, short and long. I mean, there's some Panatuke and there's all this material. What would be my first step if I say, hey, I want to go through the certification? And then we'll talk a little bit about how I would go about actually testing into that.
Absolutely. Probably one of my biggest attractions to the organization of Mars is the fact that it is actually organized. There's a syllabus for each of the levels, and it has all of your testing requirements set up. I think the syllabus for both JKD and for the Kali flow really, really well. So once you're a member, all you have to do is you log in, you go to the system that you want to start working on, if it's JKD or if it's Kali. And at the top of that page is actually a viewable PDF and downloadable PDF of the syllabus sheets. So all you have to do is pull that sheet down and then just start working step by step from the beginning, building up those fundamentals so that you can move forward.
So let's say I want to go into Kali. I would start there's a beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So I should be starting into Kali beginner. And here's the thing that you have to be careful. Don't jump in and start going to intermediate and advanced, because really you need there is a flow. The fundamentals will build up on that. So if I was to start, say, in beginning, level 1, there's let's say I went to double stick, but we also have a double stick video. So would they use that as a supplement to get a little bit more information? How would you recommend we use? How would I use that, Ron?
Okay, so here's the thing. It's so funny you mentioned it because the JKD DVDs, which I do have up already, we laid those out in such a way to where it was accumulative, the learning, and it's funny because a lot of people who purchased the DVDs for me when I was selling them, they would jump past the beginner and go to the intermediate. I put on this bumper at the start of the video, and I said, if you're starting here, stop. Go back, get the beginning material. And a lot of people would comment to me on that going, oh my God, I felt like you busted me, like cheating, jump going forward. But here's the thing. I mean, you could go for it. Everybody wants to look and see what's ahead, but it's accumulative. Everything is like stacking on. So if you don't have the beginning material, you're not going to be able to stack on to what we have. And it's very much so the same thing with the Filipino martial arts, is it's all accumulative. Maybe in the beginner area, you need 1 to 4 techniques. Then you're going to jump into the intermediate and it's going to say, hey, you want 1 to 10 by the time you get done with all 4 basic levels, and then get into the intermediate. And you're going to be like, wait, I don't know the 1 to 4. So you're going to have to run back, look at it anyway. The beginning material to me has just as much meat in it as the intermediate or the advanced material. And you'll see what I mean when you watch it. Especially if I'm referring to the Filipino martial arts, it's usually pretty foreign because it's got a lot of weaponry. And if you've never done it, it's like, wait a minute, what am I doing with this? How am I going to do it? To me, there's a lot of exciting material right in that beginning material that will give you something really good to chew on.
And the key is repetition. I mean, getting muscle memory so that you retain it. It'll transfer to the intermediate level and advance. So, I mean, laying out, and I've been watching all the videos as I have to upload them. I mean, it's a very good structure, but you have to be careful. Like I said, you have that temptation. You want to jump in and see more. But if you're actually going to be here because you want to get certified and go through testing, that's important that you keep working those fundamentals and basics, because if you're not prepared, then you're not going to pass your test. So let's talk a little bit about testing. So I come in here, let's say I'm going through beginning level 1. I look at some other videos that are available, because let's say there's double stick and maybe it's going through, let's say Heaven 6, right? And I'm working it, but you might, jump into the double stick and just see a little bit more supporting videos. That's okay. But that's not the route you're going to use for testing. It's actually going through the Kali or Filipino martial arts basic level, right? Stay in the basic level, follow that. So if I'm going through level 1, how long is it then that I am eligible to take my test?
Well, the beginning levels, I'm pretty good about testing. If somebody wanted to in the beginning materials, I think they could progress through it. Think of a martial arts school. If you have a white belt, every month is fine if somebody's got that material down. When you get into the intermediate material, you'll see it's really dense with material. I actually want you to kind of sit and chew on that for a couple months, and I've had people as short as maybe just shy of 3 months. They're ready to go into the next levels. So, it might sound like you're going to be at this for a long time, but there's a lot of material to chew on. There's a lot to see and a lot to experience. And then there's a lot to really, you might be able to get what, your left, right, left is, but to get it and hone it into like this workable material, I would say I'm going to make you go at least 2 to 3 months before we get into the testing area with it. And then by then, hopefully, we're going to have, and one of the things that I'm getting excited about that we're all going to do is classes on test prep. So maybe Larry can grab that from me and take the ball with it and run, because he's one that's setting up a lot of this for us.
Okay. So Larry, before you answer that question, let's say I did I feel like I'm ready. I went in my level 1 and I go, okay, I'm ready to test. So let's take it from there. What do I do? Who do I contact? How do I go about scheduling this test? Or like if I want to set up a pre-test class, how do I get involved in that? And let's take it from there. So again, I don't know anything. I just like, where do I go from here today? I study my material. Now I want to do a test.
One of my favorite things as a whole is testing. I was just giving kind of a talk about this weekend where, you want to kind of look at balancing your challenges out. And so for me, when I was coming up, I was either doing a competition or I was doing a test, right? And so it was just a constant juggle like that as I climbed the ladder. And the neat thing about that, I think, is that if you feel ready and you're set and you want to make that testing happen, then you just have to reach out to us, right? There are two big methods that you can do. The first method is you can follow our seminar schedule and you can get into one of the seminars that Ron's going to be at, and then make sure that you get with him, message us ahead of time, and we can schedule a time, and then we can make sure that we get you tested live in person right then and there, which is awesome. The second route is we're actually starting to make scheduled events online, so you can test from anywhere in the world, which is cool. And the way we want to do that is something that I recommended to a lot of my students was, hey, let's get you ready for testing here. And then when we would have Ron in for a seminar or we'd go see him, we'd get an hour private lesson with him. So we could just hone it and make sure that it was down pat to exactly what he wanted. And that made the test just fly right by. So now we're recreating that scenario online with the test prep class. So what we're going to be doing is spending a little bit of time both in the JKD realm and the Kali realm to prepare those people that want to actually test. And then about a week or so later, actually have their test, which is cool. So we want to set them up for success and make sure that we can get all those details down pat.
So how does that work if, let's say, I'm just coming through because I want to go get certified in the Filipino martial arts? If that test prep, I mean, if I come in, am I going to be there with people at all levels, or is it, going to just be me in level one? Am I going to be looking at the JKD curriculum also? How's that going to work for me?
So we're going to divide it up by sections. And what we're going to do is we're going to take beginners levels 1 through 4 and put them into one test prep class on their own. So that way we can really refine that material and focus on it. So there'll be different people within those levels 1, 2, 3, and 4 that'll be on that test prep class, and you're able to ask questions. And then of course, Ron can then give us pinpoint accuracy on certain things that maybe he sees that, people kind of go, I'll pick on Filipino martial arts for a second, the Escalia cutting back and butt slash and everything. I'm always still asking questions about that one. You know what I mean?
So it's a good review for people at a higher level. And it's also good for, let's say, if I'm going to beginning level 1 to kind of get a preview of what I'm going to be exposed to as I come through the next test cycles. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. And I think that's a big one. Like, you remember going, high school, not as bad maybe, but like college, especially when you had that first test with that professor that you just started that semester with, you were nerve wracked, right? Like you didn't know what to expect, right? Or what they wanted from you. And after you got through that first test, it was a lot easier. So I wish we would have had something like this even when I was coming up, in school, much less, when we were starting to come up in the ranks with Ron and everybody else, so it's a great chance to stay on top of your material and then get exactly what he wants from us, right? And prepare and be confident coming into that test, right?
So Ron, let's say I did my level 1 test and I passed. Do I get a certificate, or what do I get that sort of shows that I've, finished level 1?
Yeah, you'll be recognized through the Mars system. You will get a certificate. You're going to get your rank. Touching on what Larry just said, if you do these preps, I make sure that you have all the material. And I know Larry and yourself, Cliff, do the same thing with all your students. So by the time they get in there, if anything makes them lose it, it's nerves, but they have the material. I mean, I usually don't let people go in until I know that they've got this thing down that maybe they struggled with. But so 70% is the goal. Now, going into each level, if you get 70%, you passed. Okay, it doesn't have to be 100%. Instructor level, 70% passes. It will expire then until you get 100%. Now that means if you get 70%, you'd have to retest everything that you've done. You're just going to have to come back again and test again to correct whatever. So if you got 99% done, I'm going to be like, awesome test, that's great. We're going to need you to come back and clean up that one thing for me, and then you'll get your certificate that's not expiring. You have up to 1 year to correct the wrongs, and then it's yours. So I kind of feel, like a doctor becomes a doctor. It doesn't mean the next year he's got to renew to be a doctor. There's always higher learning, and I want everyone to stay on. And believe me, what we're showing beginning to instructor level is not everything we have. It's just everything we require to recognize you as a Mars instructor.
So I have the ability to just go through at my own pace, just to get certified, to set goals for me to work it. And I also have a route that I can actually become an instructor under Mars. Is that correct?
Yeah, most definitely correct. I never used to do Zoom. Obviously, I think most of the world, but with the advent of COVID, it's painted us into that corner. So you could jump on Zoom with us, and you can pre-test that, like we've talked about. You can test through it. Some of the material that you're gonna that we require is two-man material. I'm gonna warn you now. So what I suggest is get somebody with you, try to get them to that area to where they can help you out. If you don't have that, we'll figure it out. We'll make a test that's comparable to make sure that you have that material down. It's just like I said, because of things like COVID, we're really trapped into having to make this work. And we have. I mean, we're going on 2 years now with this pandemic, and I have a lot of people who progressed, and in ways they've progressed a lot faster than I really thought that they would. And they're doing a lot of the material that I felt was neglected because we were one-on-one. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but I've really gotten to pound that into them. And it really makes me, like if I'm teaching a class, I usually have 30 people and I'm running around making sure everybody's okay. Usually with Zoom, it's like, I'm looking at you, you're looking at me. Come on, man, let's get this. And I'm usually jumping in with you. And it's truly one-on-one training. And I think that levels just skyrocket from it. I found.
Yeah. Well, I found that in teaching Zoom now, that's the only way I do teach, because most all my students, of course, are up in Washington State. I'm here in Arizona. That they really like. It does feel like they're all getting one-on-one, because I'm looking on a big screen, a 70-inch screen, and I'm constantly watching and giving everyone feedback. And like you say, when you're out doing a seminar, like when I was in my school, I'd be over here, this one student, my back turned, I'm not seeing everyone. I see everyone. And so they really like it. They all feel like it's individual coaching. And the really plus side for them is they get video access to some of the recorded classes now, which before they went through class, they went home, they don't even remember what they did in class that day. And so now they're able to have that. And that's one of the nice things about our Mars Online Academy, basically, is when you get these 2 classes a month by Ron or some other instructor, you have access to recordings. So you can go back and watch it and kind of focus on the details. Or if you missed it, you still have access to the class. So in some ways, I think Zoom, using virtual training like this has actually made it even better for some types of students, to be able to have access to recordings that they wouldn't have before. And it works very well, because I tested my black belt test through this for first Dan. I tested second Dan testing. I just completed it. And I was able to, as I'm testing, pointing out things that they were doing wrong. And then they went back and I said, just watch the video and make these corrections, because you'll see for yourself where you were deficient in some of the techniques, right? So I think virtual training is amazing. And the quality of students that I'm producing from it is better sometimes even than I was, in live one person. But it is kind of awkward at first for people. But I think, how it is, right? You start teaching and pretty soon you almost feel like you guys are like, we're in the same room, after a while. And you just remember like, wait, we're not in the same room, but it feels that way.
I don't care if I'm testing one person, or I just did a test in Chicago. I think we had 20 people, and even for myself, I went, oh my God, this is going to be a lot to do, but it was cool. What I normally do, so someone knows, is if you do have a group of people, I'll say, like, all right, Mary and Chuck, jump up. All right, so they run and they'll do their thing. All right, now you're off. Next 2 up, and then they'll come up and then they'll do it. They'll do it. Or I could watch everybody as a group doing it, and I'll focus on group 1, group 2, group 3. And it's just really, really a good way, because I could clean it up, and I can, for myself, I can record this for myself. And we don't share our tests, so nobody else is watching. It's just for me to review later, to just let you know, and I'm going to give you feedback. Okay, I've seen it. You had it down as really good. What I'd like you to do for the next test, you're going to have to get this down a little bit better, because it'll give you that. It's helped so much. When you do a test, especially if I have a room full of people, and again, if everybody's out there, it's really easy to miss somebody. I miss no one now. I see everything. And that might either scare you or help you in this. But trust me, ultimately, my goal is I would love to see everybody become an instructor. Honestly, it's going to make the art flourish. And you're a reflection of me, the way I look at it, and we're a reflection of our instructor, Cliff and Larry, because we all have the same senior instructor together. And I want it to look right. I want him to look and say, you're one of the Mars guys. And I've had it. He says it to me all the time. He's like, you train with Ron, don't you? All my students come back and they'll tell me that. And I take it as a badge of honor. I want you to have that material. And you may change it and you might do your own thing. But if someone said, hey, in the Mars system, do they do it this way? And they'll say, well, I like to do it this way, but this is the way that it's shown there. It tells me that you're growing. Remember, it's martial arts, not martial copy. You got to copy to a point, but then after a while, you got to paint your own painting. And that's what I'm looking for. And once you get all the fundamentals down that we show, you'll see that, like my instructor always says, once you learn this art, you'll think yourself one genius, because you'll start to create. And that's what it's designed to do, is make you have a big palette, and you're able to paint whatever picture you want to paint.
Yeah, that's truly what martial arts really is. Our ultimate goal is to be artistically expression through all our knowledge, to be able to see things differently, have a different perspective, and I get that from some of my students, like, he changes things. I go, of course I change things, because I grow. The more I grow, the more I see, I find more efficient ways to do things. So, I'll tell, if you train with me, like in the early 90s, this is the way that you would see me do a snake disarm. But now I do it this way, because I'm using more of my core. And because as I get older too, I have to think in more efficient ways if I don't have the strength to be able to disarm or do certain techniques, right? So it is a growing process. And the more experience you have, the more you're going to see things. But it's an amazing program. I think setting off the testing is going to be big for those that have been maybe members, and you just feel like you're spinning your wheels, because by testing and going through and getting certification, you're setting clear, defined goals. And now you have something to work forward to and making progress, because your progress will continually create interest, and hopefully someday we'll see you as a Mars instructor.
Yeah, Cliff, I feel the same way. Look, we've got hundreds of Mars members already. I've already had people all over the world who see me a lot more regularly now than they did before the pandemic, because of Zoom. And they're progressing much further along, because now if they couldn't make my seminar when I came to Europe, or if I came to whatever state, now it gives them almost 24/7 access to me and my material. And they could test with me or with one of you guys, if they just ask. It's an email away from being able to get that time in with us. And I think it's a great thing we got going. It's doing nothing but growing.
Larry, anything you want to add?
No, I'm 100% on with that too. One of the biggest reasons, we changed the name of our school a while back was because we want to see that legacy continue to grow, continue to flourish. We want to see people picking up that torch and carrying that torch, because we would all love to be here forever, but it's not going to be that way, right? And so these next generations that are climbing up, it's just so amazing to watch them do it. And I think it's important that they know that they're attached to something. And what generation are they from? Bruce Lee or from Gurdon, or things like that. I think that brings a whole nother light and discipline, if you will, to the whole concept of training, testing, right, moving up. And I think that's a big deal. Going back, I was telling some people this weekend, same thing about testing and how to structure it, how to kind of make it part of their goal. One of the things that we've noticed that's come up, and you guys have probably seen it with some of your students too, is that in the beginning era, of generations that we have with testing, sometimes people would show up and maybe they kind of had it. And then, like Ron said, you kind of get them there, you tweak them a little bit, you polish them up a little bit. And then at the end, they're looking at you like, okay, I passed, right? And it's like, no, maybe we should do this one again tomorrow, right? Or next test, right? And so now we see this interesting development where this next generation, they're a little hesitant to test, even if they're 100% ready. We could be like giving them the big check plus, like you're good to go, right? And now they're kind of going, I might skip that test. Skip the test. Why are you going to skip the test? Like, you're ready, And so I think having the test prep class that we have in place to support, all the curriculum the online stuff that we have, the outlines, everything else. It's just setting them up with confidence and building them up step by step to let them know that they can actually make this happen, that they are ready, that they can accomplish it. And more than anything, that they should do it. I think one of my new favorite things is the fact that we're actually making an event around testing, and that we're putting it on the calendar, and that they can plan for that and set that goal and then make that happen. So I'm pretty excited about the direction that we have, and I'm really excited about the new generation picking up the torch and carrying it.
Well, speaking of test prep, now don't we have a date coming up already for a test prep?
Yes, sir. We sure do. So we're looking to get through this holiday and then kickstart a test prep on Monday, the 29th. And then that'll set our first beginner levels 1 to 4 testing actually the following Saturday, which should be December 4th.
All right. Well, that was a very informative session today. I mean, I think clearly if I was a beginner, I kind of have an insight now how this works. So that'll help me kind of get through it. So you guys have a great day. Thanks for sharing. And we're looking forward to seeing a lot of you on board and start going through your testing process and get certified. And hopefully you'll be a Mars instructor someday.